In the invisible force blocking everything you deserve. Have you ever wondered why, despite your best efforts, certain aspects of your life simply refuse to advance? Why promising relationships fall apart, opportunities slip through your fingers, or that feeling of complete fulfillment always seems to remain just beyond your reach? Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists of all time, discovered something shocking. It's not external circumstances keeping you from what you deserve. It's something within yourself, something invisible, powerful, operating in the shadows of your mind without you even realizing it. Today, I'll reveal exactly what's blocking you and, more importantly, how to finally free yourself from it. What you'll discover in the next few minutes could completely transform your life. I'm not talking about small improvements, but a true revolution in how you relate to yourself and the world. Jung spent decades studying the hidden mechanisms of the human psyche and reached an impressive conclusion. There's a part of us that actively sabotages our happiness and fulfillment. And the most disturbing part? It does this so subtly that we mistake its voice for our own inner voice. Before we dive deeper, I want you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, how many times have you been on the verge of achieving something important when suddenly everything fell apart? How many times have you caught yourself repeating the same painful patterns in relationships, work, or in your relationship with money and abundance? If this resonates with you, you're not alone. And more importantly, it's not your fault. Imagine that within you there exists an invisible force operating like an automatic program, created long ago, perhaps in your childhood, that continues running in the background of your mind. This program has a single purpose: to keep you exactly where you are. Why? Because for this part of your psyche, the unknown is dangerous. Even if that unknown is everything you've always dreamed of and deserved, you feel this every day. It's that hesitation when an opportunity appears. It's the saboteur that makes you procrastinate when you're about to take an important step. It's the voice that whispers you're not good enough when you're about to take on a new challenge. It's the mysterious pattern that makes your relationships crumble exactly when they start to become deep and meaningful. What you may not know is that this mechanism has a name, a structure, and, most importantly, it can be transformed. Carl Jung called this the shadow, and understanding how it works is the first step to finally claiming everything you truly deserve in life. When we analyze our lives, we often focus only on what's visible, our actions, conscious choices, efforts. But Jung revealed that the true engine of our existence operates below the surface. It's like an iceberg. You only see the small part above the water, while the powerful mass that truly determines your direction remains hidden in the depths. How? Many times have you asked yourself, why does this always happen to me? Or, why can't I maintain a healthy relationship? Or even, why do I always stop before achieving the success I know I could have? The answer lies in that unexplored territory of your psyche. Perhaps you've already tried positive affirmations, visualizations, law of attraction, and wondered why these techniques don't work consistently for you. The answer is simple yet profound. None of these approaches can be truly effective while your shadow continues operating in the background, silently sabotaging your efforts. You deserve more. You deserve deep and nourishing relationships. You deserve prosperity and abundance. You deserve inner peace and authentic spiritual connection. But something inside you, something you probably don't even know exists, is actively working against these legitimate desires. I'll share something that many of my followers report after understanding this concept. They say, it's as if I finally understood why nothing I tried really worked in the long run. It wasn't lack of effort or knowledge, it was something much deeper. Think about relationships. How many times have you met someone special, felt a genuine connection, but somehow, over time, the same problems began to emerge? The same arguments, the same feelings of not being understood, the same barriers to true intimacy. This is not coincidence. It's your shadow operating precisely as it was programmed to do. Or consider your relationship with money and prosperity. Why do some people seem to attract abundance with ease, while others, no matter how hard they try or study, continue to face financial limitations? Jung would explain that your financial shadow is operating behind the scenes, ensuring you Remain exactly where you are, in the zone your unconscious considers safe. The same applies to your spirituality and personal growth. Have you noticed how you can have profound insights during a retreat or after powerful meditation, only to return to old patterns days later? This isn't weakness of character. It's the shadow regaining control when your conscious self lowers its guard. The first step to changing anything is awareness. We can only transform what we recognize and understand. That's why Jung insisted so much on the importance of self-knowledge, not the superficial kind we see in many modern personality tests, but a deep and courageous dive into the parts of ourselves we prefer to ignore. You are now at a crucial point in your journey. Understanding. The existence of the shadow is just the beginning. The real work, the transformative work, lies in learning to identify it in your daily life and, eventually, integrating it in a healthy way into your consciousness. This is what Jung called shadow work, and it's the key to unlocking everything. You truly deserve. Jung discovered that the shadow forms in early childhood. When we were children, we quickly learned which parts of ourselves were acceptable to our family and society, and which parts needed to be hidden to ensure love, acceptance, and in some cases, even physical safety. These rejected parts don't disappear. They're pushed into the unconscious, forming what Jung called the personal shadow. Think about this for a moment. Perhaps you grew up in a family where expressing anger was forbidden. Well-behaved girls don't shout, or strong men don't cry. These messages were repeated hundreds of times during your formative years. To adapt and survive emotionally, you pushed these unacceptable emotions into your shadow. The problem? These repressed emotions don't disappear. They gain strength in the shadows and emerge in distorted forms, often sabotaging exactly what you desire most. If you repressed your anger, for example, you may struggle to establish healthy boundaries in relationships. If you repressed your sadness, you might seek constant distractions to avoid facing deep feelings. If you repressed your personal strength, you might attract relationships where you're constantly diminished or undervalued. How can you recognize your shadow in action? Pay attention to what deeply irritates you in others. Jung said something profoundly revealing. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This means that the qualities that bother us most in other people are, frequently, repressed aspects of our own shadow. That person you consider excessively confident, who bothers you so much. Perhaps they're reflecting the confidence you've repressed in yourself. That friend who seems to always think about money and causes you discomfort. They may be mirroring your own unresolved relationship with abundance and deservingness. It's a fascinating mechanism of the psyche. We project onto the outside world exactly what we cannot accept in ourselves. And that's why so many people live lives of constant frustration. They're literally surrounded by reflections of their own repressed parts, without ever recognizing the origin of this discomfort. The good news? Once you begin to recognize this pattern, a door opens. Every irritation, every judgment, every disproportionate emotional reaction becomes an opportunity for self-knowledge. It's as if the universe were constantly trying to show you where your unhealed wounds are, so you can finally heal them. Let's talk about one of the most powerful aspects of the shadow, the inferiority complex. Jung observed that many people carry a deep and unconscious belief that they are, somehow, less worthy or deserving than others. This complex doesn't manifest as a clear, articulated thought. It's more subtle than that. It's a visceral sensation, a bodily knowledge that I am not enough or I don't deserve. This belief acts as an invisible ceiling for everything you try to build in life. You can work tirelessly toward a goal, but if deep down you believe you don't deserve to achieve it, you'll find incredibly creative ways to sabotage it. This explains why so many talented people never realize their potential, why promising relationships inexplicably crumble, why financial prosperity always seems to slip through your fingers. The inferiority complex manifests in specific behavior patterns. Do you recognize any of these in your life? Chronic procrastination, especially when it comes to important projects. Abandoning goals when you're about to achieve them. Feeling uncomfortable with compliments or recognition. Difficulty establishing healthy boundaries. Repeatedly attracting people who don't adequately value you. These aren't just bad habits or character weaknesses. They're manifestations of an unconscious belief about your fundamental worth. And until that belief is brought to the light of consciousness and transformed, these patterns will continue repeating, regardless of how many self-help books you read or workshops you attend. Jung was convinced that this journey of self-knowledge, the process of confronting and integrating the shadow, was essential not just for individual well-being, but for the very evolution of humanity. There is no light without shadow and no psychic wholeness without imperfection, he wrote. The shadow isn't something to be eliminated, but integrated, transformed into a source of vitality and authentic power. This perspective changes everything. Your flaws and imperfections aren't obstacles. They're portals to deeper self-knowledge and a more authentic life. What you fear most in yourself may, paradoxically, be the key to your liberation. Beyond the personal shadow, Jung identified another crucial mechanism that keeps us from what we deserve: the persona. While the shadow represents what we repress, the persona is the social mask we adopt to present ourselves to the world. It's the self we show to others, carefully constructed to gain approval, avoid rejection, and navigate the complexities of social interactions. Make no mistake, for most people these masks are necessary. We cannot, and should not, express every thought or emotion in all social contexts. The problem arises when the persona becomes rigid and disconnected from the true self. When the mask we wear for the world becomes so habitual that we forget who we really are behind it. When we live to meet external expectations, sacrificing our true needs and desires. Do you recognize this pattern in your life? Perhaps you're the eternal caregiver who always puts others' needs ahead of your own, or the perfect professional who hides any vulnerability at all costs, or the peacemaker who avoids conflicts even when it means betraying your own values and needs. These personas may gain temporary social approval, but the cost is high. A deep disconnection from yourself and, consequently, from everything you truly deserve in life. Jung observed that many people spend decades developing a socially acceptable persona, only to face a profound crisis in middle age when they realize they've lived someone else's life, not their own. It's what he called the midlife crisis, that moment when the mask no longer fits, when the emptiness behind it becomes unbearable. Why is this so relevant to our discussion about what keeps you from what you deserve? Because your persona may be drastically limiting what you allow into your life. If your persona is someone who never asks for help, you may be depriving yourself of vital opportunities and connections. If your persona is someone who never takes risks, the rich and full life you deserve will always remain out of reach. There's a crucial difference between healthy social adaptation and a rigid persona that suffocates your essence. The first allows flexibility. You can navigate different social contexts while remaining connected to your inner truth. The second is a prison, a false identity that, over time, you mistake for your true self. Now let's address one of the most powerful mechanisms identified by Jung: projection. This is an unconscious process by which we attribute to others aspects of ourselves that we cannot or do not want to recognize. It's like an inner movie projector that constantly casts images of our own psyche onto the world around us. Projection is intimately linked to the shadow. What we repress in ourselves, we project onto others. And here's the truly revealing part. Our projections are frequently what keeps us furthest from authentic relationships, growth opportunities, and everything we deeply deserve. Think about the last significant conflict you had with someone. Perhaps you felt deeply irritated by this person's behavior. What Jung teaches us is revolutionary. What bothers us most in others is often a reflection of something in ourselves that we cannot accept. This doesn't mean that others don't have real flaws or that we should tolerate toxic behaviors. It means that our disproportionate emotional reactions are valuable clues about our own unexplored inner world. When someone can easily get under your skin, it's a sign they've touched some unhealed wound, some aspect of your shadow. Projections deeply distort our perception of others and the world. When we project our shadow, we don't see people as they really are. We see distorted versions, colored by the parts of ourselves we reject. This creates a cycle of conflicts, misunderstandings, and superficial connection. In romantic relationships, this mechanism is particularly devastating. Many people fall in love not with who the other person really is, but with their own positive projections. Then, when reality inevitably emerges, they feel betrayed, not by the real person, but by the dissolution of their own projected fantasy. Similarly, many potentially nourishing relationships are destroyed by negative projections. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, "I know exactly what this person is thinking," in a moment of conflict? That's projection in action, and it's one of the main mechanisms by which we sabotage meaningful connections in our lives. The same applies to your relationship with money, success, and abundance. If you unconsciously believe that rich people are greedy, or that material success comes at the cost of spiritual integrity, you'll be projecting negative qualities onto states that, in reality, you deserve to experience. These projections act as invisible barriers, ensuring you keep a safe distance from what you judge negatively, even if it's exactly what you want and deserve. Jung taught us that the remedy for projection is the same for all shadow mechanisms: awareness and integration. By recognizing that what we judge in the external world often reflects unrecognized aspects of ourselves, we gain a powerful tool for growth. Every irritation, every judgment, every intense emotional reaction becomes an opportunity for self-knowledge. Realize now that we're reaching a crucial point in our journey. It's time to explore Jung's most transformative concept, the process of individuation. This is the path by which we integrate all the fragmented parts of ourselves, shadow, persona, projections, into an authentic and powerful wholeness. It's the process by which we finally become who we really are, capable of receiving everything we genuinely deserve. Individuation isn't a destination, but an ongoing journey. Jung described it as becoming oneself, a process by which the diverse facets of personality are gradually integrated into consciousness. This is where true transformation happens, where the invisible blocks that kept you from what you deserve are finally dissolved. The first step in this journey is developing what Jung called a strong ego, not in the sense of selfishness, but of a clear and centered consciousness, capable of observing psychic contents without being completely dominated by them. Without this foundation, any work with the shadow can become overwhelming. How do you strengthen your ego in this Jungian sense? Through regular self-perception practice. Reserve a few daily minutes to simply observe your thoughts, emotions, and reactions without judgment. Notice how certain triggers unleash automatic emotional responses. Observe recurring patterns in your relationships and challenges. This simple act of witnessing creates space between you and your automatic patterns, the essential first step for any lasting transformation. The second step is direct confrontation with the shadow. This requires courage, as it involves facing aspects of ourselves that we've spent our lives avoiding. Jung believed this confrontation was not only necessary but inevitable for anyone seeking a full life. That which we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate. That which we accept transforms us. How do you begin this shadow work? One powerful method is internal dialogue. When you feel an intense emotion, anger, jealousy, shame, try giving voice to that part of you. Literally ask it, "What are you trying to tell me? What are you afraid of? What do you need?" You can do this through writing, imagining a dialogue, or simply in silent contemplation. Another technique is what Jung called active attention to dreams. Your dreams are direct messages from your unconscious, frequently bringing symbols and themes related to your shadow. Begin recording your dreams immediately upon waking, without censorship or editing. Over time, patterns will emerge, offering profound insights into your inner world. A third aspect of individuation is working with projections. Each time you feel intensely irritated, attracted, or repelled by someone, ask the revealing question, "What does this say about me?" Remember, your intense emotional reactions are frequently clues about unrecognized parts of yourself. A particularly powerful practice is transforming your judgments into statements about yourself. For example, if you think that person is so arrogant, Try reformulating it as there's a part in me that can be arrogant, or perhaps a part that fears not being valued. This simple exercise can reveal surprising aspects of your shadow. The fourth element of individuation is the reconciliation of opposites. Jung observed that the human psyche is inherently dual, masculine and feminine, light and shadow, conscious and unconscious. True integration comes not from eliminating one side, but from finding the dynamic balance between these opposites. For women, this often involves integrating what Jung called the animus, traditionally masculine aspects of the psyche like assertiveness, logic, and independence. For men, it involves integrating the anima, traditionally feminine qualities, like receptivity, intuition, and emotional expression. This inner balance creates the foundation for more authentic and satisfying outer relationships. The fifth and perhaps deepest aspect of individuation is connection with what Jung called the self, the organizing center of the total psyche, which transcends and includes the ego. This is the spiritual dimension of Jungian psychology, where the personal journey meets a greater meaning. Jung discovered that this connection often manifests through universal symbols that appear in dreams, art, and mythology throughout human history. The circle, the cross, the divine child, the wise elder. These are symbols of the self that naturally emerge during the individuation process, signaling a deeper connection with your essential nature. As you advance on the journey of individuation, something remarkable begins to happen. Those invisible blocks that kept you from what you deserve begin to dissolve. Relationships become more authentic and nourishing. Your work and creativity gain depth and meaning. Your relationship with money and prosperity transforms. Your spirituality becomes more embodied and genuine. This isn't mere theory, it's a transformation. I've observed in countless people who had the courage to undertake this inner journey. One of my clients, who constantly struggled with dysfunctional romantic relationships, discovered through shadow work that she was projecting onto partners the image of her emotionally unavailable father. By recognizing and integrating this old pain, she finally made space for a genuinely nourishing relationship. Another follower shared how his relationship with money completely transformed after confronting limiting beliefs in his shadow. He grew up hearing that money is the root of all evil and unconsciously sabotaged every opportunity for prosperity. By bringing these beliefs to consciousness and questioning their validity, he finally allowed himself to receive the abundance he always deserved. It's important to understand that individuation isn't a quick or linear process. Jung described it as a spiral. You'll revisit the same themes at increasingly deeper levels of understanding. There will be moments of intense revelation, followed by periods of quieter integration. It's a lifelong journey, but each step brings greater freedom and authenticity. Another crucial aspect of individuation is what Jung called synchronicity, seemingly coincidental events that carry deep meaning. As you advance on this journey, you may notice an increase in these meaningful moments in your life. It's as if the outer world begins to reflect and respond to your inner transformation. Pay attention to these moments. When that book casually falls from the shelf, when you coincidentally meet exactly the person who could help you, when a recurring symbol appears in different contexts of your life, these synchronicities are signs that you're aligned with your authentic path. A question that frequently arises is, how do I know if I'm making progress? Jung identified various signs of successful individuation: greater tolerance for ambiguity and paradox, less need for external validation, ability to quickly recognize projections, sense of purpose and meaning even in difficult times, more authentic and less dramatic relationships, and a more spontaneous and genuine creativity. Perhaps the clearest sign is a growing sense of integrity, not in the moral sense, but in the sense of integration. The diverse parts of you that previously seemed in conflict begin to work together harmoniously. You feel more complete, more genuine, more yourself. Now let's address a frequently neglected aspect of shadow work: compassion. Many people approach this process with a combative energy, as if they needed to defeat or master their shadow. Jung warned against this attitude, emphasizing that true transformation comes not from conquest, but from compassionate acceptance. Your shadow formed as a protective mechanism, Those parts you repressed, those aspects that cause you shame, all served a purpose at some point in your life. They helped the little you survive in circumstances that may have been genuinely challenging or even threatening. Recognizing this doesn't mean surrendering to dysfunctional patterns or justifying harmful behaviors. It means understanding the origin of these patterns with compassion, creating the necessary space for true transformation. As Jung said, "I am not what happened. To me, I am what I choose to become." This compassionate approach is especially important when working with what Jung called complexes, groupings of thoughts, memories, and emotions organized around a common theme with strong emotional charge. These complexes often form around childhood emotional wounds. For example, an abandonment complex may form when a child experiences traumatic separation from caregivers. In adult life, this complex can be activated in situations that even remotely resemble abandonment, triggering intense emotional reactions that seem disproportionate to the current event. These complexes operate as semi-autonomous subpersonalities within the psyche. When activated, they can temporarily take control, making you act and feel in ways that may later seem strange or incomprehensible. "I don't know what came over me," or "I didn't seem like myself," are common phrases after the activation of a powerful complex. The work of individuation involves recognizing these complexes, understanding their origins, and gradually integrating them into consciousness. Not to eliminate them, that would be impossible and undesirable, but so they no longer operate in the shadows, triggering automatic behaviors that keep you from what you deserve.